Manistee City Council work session for Tuesday, October 9, 2018 is now called to order. Item 2, work session items. We get public comments on work session related items. The items are a joint discussion with the Downtown Development Authority on the draft tax increment financing plan, presentation of quarterly strategic plan update, discussion on sidewalk maintenance ordinance, and a discussion on rental inspection ordinance and maintenance housing, Manistee Housing Commission. I'm going to move item E, the discussion on rental inspection ordinance and Manistee Housing Commission, to the first item.
Excuse me.
Public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens that are present to make comment on agenda-related items. If you have comments, please come forward, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Are there any citizens that wish to speak?
Hi, I'm Ed Kriskowitz, 387 River Street. Also own a building at 100 Washington Street. I've been here about 25 years, as most of you have known, and been involved in many political items. You know, I was on the DDA for a while, Harbor Commission, different programs like that. Anyways, I understand that City Council is thinking about dissolving the DDA possibly, and I just want to give my opinion and throw out a couple thoughts basically. When I moved here, you know, it was a very, you know, bricks and mortar type of organization. You know, they were responsible, or partly responsible, for the, you know, Riverwalk, some of the street improvements downtown, as well as the bathrooms. You know, there is a downtown bathroom there. And I just feel that, you know, they're a good organization to have. You know, without them, I think there's a lot of things that the downtown would not have. You know, and some of them I outlined earlier. So I just hope that you can consider that, you know, it's a good thing to have and keep them and let them move forward in a positive sense. Thank you.
Karen Goodman, 1925 12th Street, also a board member of the DDA. I just wanted to let the council know that members of the DDA are here today to discuss with you or help you through the TIF plan that we are proposing.
Are there any other public comments? If not, we'll move on to the first agenda item, discussion on rental inspection ordinance and Manistee Housing Commission. Clinton, did you want to speak on that?
Clinton McKibben, Cobus, Executive Director of the City Manistee Housing Commission. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. In your packet is the letter from the Detroit field office of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. That letter is fairly clear that we welcome any inspections the city may like to do on the properties. We're prohibited from paying for them by federal law and by the signed agreement of the ACC that originated in 1967 between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the city of Manistee. We did have an arrangement for a while where Mark Neeson, when he was on staff here, did some, we had him trained to do the inspections that HUD required, because we have to inspect 100% of all of our units every year using the USPC standard. And so we hired Mark to do that and to do the percentage of units he needed to do for the city. He did along with that. And we paid that with a consulting fee that was allowable by HUD, because before that, we were having the inspection group from Ohio come up and do that for us. After Mark retired, we trained 2 of our staff members who are certified REAC inspectors. That means they're certified to perform HUD inspections, and they can do it not just for our property, but any property, but they do it for ours. So we do 20 units a month in order to get all 214 units inspected annually, and to give us an opportunity to get into all the units, because sometimes folks don't call us with things that need to be fixed. And we'd be more than willing to take the inspection form that the city might have, and when my inspector is in there performing our inspections, we could fill that form out for you and return it to the city. So Thad and I spoke about that earlier today, and hopefully that will, be helpful. But I'm here mainly as a resource because my hands are tied, as you can see from the letter from the field office. Do you have any questions I might try to answer?
I have one.
Yeah.
I noticed a letter dated April 13th, 2010. Has there been any updates since then?
No.
Any other correspondence with them? If anything's changed?
No, because that's a final correspondence. It doesn't change. The basis for it has not changed. So.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
The reason I put this on was when, due to Denise's resignation, met with Spicer Group just to make sure we could transition effectively and efficiently with our rental inspection program, because she oversaw that. And as part of that discussion, I was made aware that our rental inspection was not being done on HUD properties. And that was brought up by Mark Neeson, because he said that's probably the #1 complaint he gets associated with the program, is that how come they aren't involved in the program? How come they don't have their units inspected by the city, and why aren't they paying for those inspections? That was the first time I was aware of it. And in another community I served, Alpena, they were doing inspections. They had their own rental inspection program. They were doing inspections on HUD properties and getting reimbursed for them, just like any other rental housing unit in the city. So I called the building official afterwards and confirmed that, and they have been doing that for a number of years. So, and then I talked with Clinton about it. He alerted me to some correspondence we had in a file, and specifically pointed to that letter. I think it was dated April 13th of 2010. And as I read that letter, it just says that HUD does not allow the housing commissions to pay those funds. Now, that to me is different than the law says we can't. It's almost like an internal, it could read that it was an internal decision that they don't want those funds expended those ways. So what I wanted to do was just talk with council, and I think, in my opinion, this is worth at least going a little further in terms of investigation, getting hold of the regional person, and get some documentation that there's something that says that HUD can't pay those fees. If it's just a position that they've taken for whatever reason, that's certainly different than a law saying they can't, in my estimation. So I just wanted to get council's reaction to that and find out if you have any qualms about me looking further into this and then coming back with my findings.
I would like to matters that Thad just raised. First of all, the last sentence of the first paragraph says, "This is a consistent interpretation of the cooperation agreement signed by the city that has applied not only to Ypsilanti, but other cities that have also raised this issue." That's a cooperation agreement. That's a legal documentation between HUD and Ypsilanti. And they're using that as the legal grounds for saying we are prohibited for paying for funds. Secondly, I called the housing director in Alpena, and for 5 years he's been working to help the city council there understand that it is illegal funds for him paying that. And he was very grateful to receive this letter. And so he is going to be contacting Doug Gordon, the director of public housing of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in Detroit, because they cannot be charging for those. So it is a legal standing, and we will not be able to pay until the city has a direct order relieving us from HUD saying that we can. And we're just in that position on the funding on that.
Well, again, again, for council's edification, it says it's an interpretation of the agreement. So what I'm suggesting is that I'll take a look and research this a little bit further and come back with some information to council and let you make a decision as to what direction you want to head. I did talk to the building official in Alpena this evening, and just a courtesy call to him, let him know that Clint was sending a copy of that letter over to their director, and out of his mouth is they welcome the city to do the inspections because it's more effective than what they have. So I think it's worth investigating, as long as council has no objections, and come back with what I find and then make a decision at that time.
Mr. Neeson? Yes. You would, please. What's the difference between the inspections?
The HUD inspections, which Clint is right, I was certified to do HUD inspections, so I did them simultaneously with the city inspections for a little while, until the city got the letter saying that they aren't going to pay for them anymore. The difference is HUD is looking for more economical things, seals around refrigerator doors, oven doors, seals around windows, things like that, which will save them money in the long run. Ours are more life safety issues, smoke alarms, windows on the first floor that lock, handrails in the right places, smoke alarms in the right places, and operating, things like that. We also do the exterior of all the rentals, which means that if there's garbage on the outside, a car that's unlicensed, anything dangerous outside, we can also take care of that.
Is there anything in the city inspection that's not covered by HUD?
Nearly everything.
Nearly everything.
They're entirely two different kinds of inspections.
So their inspection is more thorough than ours? Is that what
No, theirs is economically based, ours is life safety based.
Thank you.
Okay?
I respect Mark very much, but I must put on the record that he's incorrect. I will meet anytime with the city council and bring to you our HUD inspection, which is much more detailed, focused on health, safety, that's the #1 scoring issue, then on property management and how well things are done. Everything is checked, how fast a fire door closes, how fast a fire door opens, how fast are elevator doors open, how fast are elevator doors closed. Is there blocking to getting to and out of a window? Is there something that could cause a fire? Clothing, piles of stuff up upon a heater or a register. It is more than economical. It is health and safety and pure management of everything. If we have one crack in a tile on the floor that could cause a trip hazard, that whole unit fails. So it is much more in depth than Mark is letting you believe. And we can bring that information to you and show you the in-depth work that we have to do for our inspections. So I would ask that anytime you're going to discuss this, that you're sure to include the Housing Commission and allow us to provide full documentation of what our inspections entail, because ours are much more detailed than the cities, far more detailed.
I mean, no disrespect, but I just want to ask a question. You know, I know things change, I know rules change, I know that things change. Is there anything, you see anything wrong with requesting an update or requesting, reemphasizing this position?
No, I have no problem with that. I just want you to know the position the Housing Commission is in until we receive a ruling opposite.
I think this whole thing is a lot over this letter. And for me, it's a date, 2010. I mean, I would like to see an updated letter. I would like to see something more current, or re-emphasizing this particular point. That's just me.
What's the cost of one of these inspections?
For our inspections, if we were to hire it out to the inspection group, we're doing about $5,000–6,000, for it. Thus, we trained our staff to be certified inspectors and to stay on top of the inspections, because we were able to save money that way. And when HUD comes in with their audit inspectors, my inspectors go along with them and are able to learn from them anything additional that HUD is requiring, and also point out to them inaccuracies that they may be reporting. For example, the last inspection, they claimed that we owned the fence between Reitz Park and our property, whereas we were able to prove that was not our fence by having a survey provided by Spicer Group. So sometimes they make errors such as that my guys need to be on top of and report back to us.
What's the cost of a city inspection? What do we charge?
It's $90 an inspection,
For how many years?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
How many units do you inspect per year?
I think it's around 300.
No, in a property.
Well over 300 a year.
About 300 a year.
In a property. Is it 10% of a property, 1% of a property?
I'm not sure.
I have 214 units. How many units do you inspect in 1 year?
So out of the city, there's around 1,000 units. We do 1,100. We do about 30 in a year. So we do about 33% of the rental stock. We rotate every 3 years.
The second part of the letter refers to why HUD doesn't want to pay for it. It takes money away from the funding, whereas we can't increase our rents. Private landlords can.
Yeah, I will reach out to their regional person and raise those issues that I've already brought up with council about it being an interpretation and not allowed versus some legal standing. So, and then I'll bring it back to council. And I'll certainly let Clinton know my findings and make sure he knows when we meet again to discuss this matter.
Any objection? Okay, thank you. Second item, joint discussion with the Downtown Development Authority on a draft tax increment finance plan. Who wants to start? City manager?
This was put on the agenda at council's request. We had a joint meeting in August, and you wanted to have the DDA back at this work session to have further discussion.
I think in that August work session, one of the things that was perhaps a misinterpretation was that the DDA was going to give the 30-day public notice and hold a public hearing. And from my last correspondence with the city attorney, that's the city's responsibility as opposed to the DDA's.
Right, for the public hearing, they have to adopt a plan, a TIF plan at one of their noticed meetings, and then it's presented to council, and eventually council would hold a public hearing on the TIF plan.
Okay, they have adopted their TIF plan.
Okay? Then staff needs to get a copy of that, because I haven't seen the official adopted plan. So we need to take a look at that and then see how it comports with the statute to make sure everything is in order.
Okay. Question?
I just was curious, how much of a time frame are we talking here to get this all wrapped up and get it before council? What do you think?
I have no idea. I can't give you a time frame right now.
Okay,
You know, I don't know, you know, the only copy that I've seen was what they labeled a draft, so I don't know if there's been any changes to that document. So, you know, I couldn't give you any kind of a guess.
DDA?
Yeah, the TIF plan that was, the last version of the TIF plan that was provided to the city is the TIF plan that the DDA worked at.
Okay.
No changes. So we can provide it again to the city with a cover letter or?
Yep, that'd be fine. Yeah, just, you know, some documentation of, you know, what the action was, when it was taken, and you can just submit that electronically.
Yeah, because it was just done
Last week.
last week.
Yeah,
The minutes have not been published yet.
right.
We'll do that
Okay.
the next day or so.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, my comments are more related to Tyler resigning. What's the plan in place for figuring out how to replace him? Or
Currently, the DDA has had a couple work sessions, and we are working on a parallel plan. We have redone the job description, have agreed to post that position, but at the same time, the DDA is looking at all opportunities. With this change, what can we do, maybe in a collaboration, or I shouldn't say collaboration, with a contract maybe with another entity, or other opportunities to have a stronger economic development group within the city. Yeah. So it's a parallel track we're doing. We're still gonna advertise it. You'll see an advertisement out there. But at the same time, we are still talking about what if or what can we do? What are the other opportunities?
so everything's falling on the board right now?
Currently, Val Bergstrom is managing the financial pieces. T is managing, he's in the office a couple times or 2 times a week? 2 times a week?
Yeah.
1 to 2
as
times a week.
necessary.
Answering all the emails, taking the phone calls. And Rachel, of course, is managing all that as well. So we have 3 identified persons who are managing everything in the interim.
Well, let me correct this. Rachel receives all of the correspondence and emails, phone calls, so on. And then she forwards them to one of us, with Valerie dealing with financial issues, payments, and so on. I deal with economic development, redevelopment, and related issues. And that's something, again, that we set up the last few days. So anything that Tyler was doing, we cover it among us until we procure a executive director.
We also agreed that we will be monitoring this, it's like,
Yeah.
again, to make sure that nothing goes through the, falls through the cracks. We'll be monitoring it, each of our meetings, and then we are having these work meetings in between.
Is there anyone in the office, or is this all throughout?
I will be spending time in the office, but on an irregular basis, depending on what we have going that day. So for those days that there are meetings and other activities that I need to attend to, I will be spending time in the office. But in the office, we don't get traffic, very little. It's primarily correspondence by emails, phone calls, and that's what we are responding to. Plus, we know what projects are going on for the most part, and so we follow up on those. I mean, since last week, I've talked with the MEDC, I don't know how many times, and with Tyler. Tyler provides some continuity, some support. And again, he has a full-time job, but he's been very good about addressing some issues that we have not been very familiar with, you know, like some contact names for certain projects, things like that.
I think that, Council, one of the big things, especially for today, and the other board members could probably tell you, is that really realize that probably the DDA's communication could be improved. We are not really good at, sharing the information. We're not really good at keeping you in the loop. We need to kind of probably provide you with more information about what's going on, what's our timeframes. We've got a plan, we've got it covered, but we're not good at sharing that. Even with the community, probably, there should be some more communication. So today we had a real lively discussion, and discussion, that was one of the things that we all really could agree upon, is that, we've been taking kind of a backseat approach to communication, and we need to be more assertive and more responsive to everybody.
I have a couple of questions. I'm sorry, I must have missed this part of the discussion tonight, but do you have a finalized job description?
Yes, we do.
Where is it?
Uh,
Is it something we can look at?
I don't have it.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it will be in the minutes
Yeah.
of, actually, they are in the minutes of the last special meeting, board meeting we had. They were attached.
Okay, and that was when? Last Wednesday?
That was last Wednesday, so we,
There's always been a little bit of lag about getting the minutes published, so I'm just curious when we might see it.
yeah, because of the approval issue. But the minutes, I believe I got an email from Cindy that she posted them, I believe yesterday, because Mondays wasn't here. And so it would be minutes of two special meetings and the final job description.
Councilman Beaton, we'll have those all for you probably tomorrow. We'll start.
Okay.
We'll make sure we have the TIF available, and we'll have the job description, and then we can make sure that all that information is put together and sent off tomorrow. We have our regular meeting tomorrow as well, so it'll be a good time to remind that all this stuff needs to be sent out.
I really don't know how the other council members feel, but I want to share this comment with you of mine. I have been disappointed that there wasn't a collaboration between the Chamber of Commerce on Economic Development and the DDA. And so if you're going to talk about communication, I think that's something that needs to be looked at again.
We have developed a small group, a subgroup that is going out looking at alternatives, and as you may know, Filer City has their DDA. The city itself has tried to look at what economic development is. We've, reached out to the chamber, trying to reach out to every avenue. I agree that a collaborative approach, and again, I'm just one person.
Right.
A collaborative approach is a good approach, but we can't lose sight, which our board is very, focused on. We cannot lose sight of the importance of having that person focus on the downtown development area. So, trying to navigate all that is where we're at right now. How do we get 100%, even if we're collaborating with somebody else? How do we keep that? We don't want another situation where we have economic development going on and then it kind of goes on unchecked or not well managed. So we're trying to be more, not only fiscally responsible, because we have a very tight budget, but we're also trying to be adherent to the idea that, you know, many hands make lighter work.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
Any-
I do appreciate the board stepping up and Tyler's, moving on, so I thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you all for coming in tonight. Mr. Satter, you have anything else to add?
No.
We're going to the next item, presentation of quarterly strategic plan update.
Council has the current update. Couple of things I would want to point out is that we've not gotten any updates from AES. I don't know that we'll get any in the future. So I have to take a look at how we can reassign some of those areas to staff or others. So you'll note there's a couple of strategies that AES was going to take ownership of, and we're just not getting what we need from them. The other thing on rail relocation, we are making some headway with that. Had a meeting with Representative Vanderwall a couple of weeks ago about this, and it's borne some fruit. He's arranging a meeting with state officials in Lansing in early December that I'll be attending along with Chairman Dantz. And also, later this month, Chairman Dantz and I are going to be meeting with representatives from Senators Peters and Stabenow's office, and also Congressman Bergman's office, to explore what funding opportunities might be available on a federal level for rail relocation. And again, with the state in December to see what funding might be available there. So we are making some progress, at least getting to meet and speak with the right people. We've also identified a gentleman with the railroad that's very well placed, that expressed interest in the concept. So we're going to follow up with that. So we're making some good progress there. So I'd entertain any other questions the council might have on the quarterly update.
I'm concerned, there's quite a few from AES, and if we haven't heard anything back from them, I'm assuming nothing has been worked on, so.
I don't know. I just know we haven't heard anything, but
We're on contract with them. Did we renew any kind of,
we have not,
So I'm assuming
we have
that
not
they're not.
contracted with AES. That was not, it's been, gosh, a while since we've contracted with them. They
Oh.
were contracted through the county. I don't think, did you renew that? They did not. Yeah, right. So they're not funded by the county anymore, so I'm kind of guessing that we're probably not going to get anything from them moving forward. So that's why I got to try to find out if I can reach out to them, get what they have, and then take a look at how we can, in terms of our staff or other entities, address these strategies.
okay, and then a few of them are assigned to Denise as well, so would that move on to the county?
That's a possibility, or otherwise we're going to have to reassign it to someone in staff. It's going to be difficult moving forward.
Yeah, it's quite concerning. I think that we need to take a better look at this and reassign sooner.
On policies and procedures. We were budgeted this year for accreditation through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. Mayor Pro Tem Zelinski and I at the Michigan Mayors Association got quite an overview of that program from it. I could see where there'd be many benefit to the oversight and review, and it looks like a pretty good program.
It's a great program, and I'm glad that the state is offering something other than what's available on a national level. I was very excited about national accreditation when I was in law enforcement, but it was too costly not only in terms of the annual renewal cost, but it would almost require you to have one officer assigned just to manage the accreditation process on an ongoing basis. Now, the state has something simpler and easier to comply with.
It was a 101-point program, as
Right.
they were explaining, and they did bring that out, that it took less manpower to go through the review process and such, but there were some other people there that spoke of the benefits of that in identifying some deficiencies or perhaps not a deficiency, but a shortfall in the operation.
Yep.
Made-
It's a good check and balance, and the public safety director's already identified an officer that's going to spearhead that.
And how the officers also embrace it.
Yep.
Program, okay. Where are we with the automatic locks on the bathrooms?
We're going to move forward with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Jeff was off all last week, and so he and I just have to meet. We had one scheduled this morning, but it didn't work out. We'll meet, and he'll get his marching orders to get them ordered.
Okay.
Is
He does
Goody's still locked?
look pretty relaxed, so.
Is Goody's still locked
Yes, sir.
because of the fire they,
Well, it's due to the constant vandalism that was occurring. We had a very antiquated video system in there. It hasn't worked in years. So we were actually in the process of selecting a new system to install there. And then we had the 3 fires in 4 days, and it was decided to close them down until that surveillance is available.
I agree.
Any other questions or comments on the strategic plan? If not, we will move on to discussion of sidewalk maintenance ordinance.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification from council. Earlier this year, we'd looked at overhauling our sidewalk ordinance and specifically requiring all sidewalks in the city to be maintained in terms of removal of snow and ice, and that was not embraced by council. But council did leave in the section that those property owners in the central business district are responsible for removing snow and ice. In terms of property owners outside of the central business district, we'd use the maintenance section of the requirement to enforce snow removal. And because council didn't adopt that as part of the ordinance amendment, I just want to find out, does council want us to try to enforce snow removal outside of the central business district, or just do it ourselves? And also, I just want to know council's position on the central business district. We've been doing that, and now, it remains in the ordinance that it's the property owner's responsibility. So just want some direction, because it is a different change.
I believe in the ordinance, it was the property owner's responsibility, no matter whether it was in the central business district or not.
It wasn't specifically, we used they had to maintain the sidewalk, but it didn't specifically say snow removal. So that was one of the changes that staff recommended, that we specifically recommended that all property owners throughout the city was responsible for removing snow and ice, and council didn't want that. So that's why I'm asking, in point of clarification. Historically, we've removed it when we can. It's not our highest priority. We focus more on the central business district. So I just need to know if council wants us to try to enforce snow removal outside the central business district under the maintenance standards under our current ordinance or not. And secondarily, do you want staff to enforce that part of the ordinance that specifically requires property owners in the central business district to remove all snow and ice from their property.
I would not be in favor of that.
Okay?
What kind of how would that work downtown, Jeff? They've always removed that snow down in the business district. If you,
What is unique, especially on River Street, is that the right-of-way is basically from the face of the building to the face of the building. So you've got the roadway, and then you've got sidewalk. Obviously, when we typically plow a city street, the snow gets windrowed to the side, gets placed up on outside of the, or off the edge of the roadway. Downtown, we have to haul that snow out because there's not enough storage on that sidewalk. In the past, we have plowed the sidewalks off, pushed it in the street, and then hauled everything out of there. If it was required for the property owners to maintain the sidewalk free of snow, there's just not locations that they can store that snow
They
in.
would
And
have
the
to push it.
timing becomes an issue.
they'd have to push it into the street, right?
They likely would have to push it in the street, and they
They're
would
not
also
gonna
have
get
to
up
do
at 4
that
o'clock.
prior.
Yeah, they're not gonna get up
When-
at 4 o'clock in the morning and do that.
They'd have to do it prior to when my crew comes in to start removing it. So I think would be extremely challenging for the property owners to handle.
Do you have any problem continuing with what we've been doing in the central business district?
I think we've got that, we're pretty efficient at that right now.
I think one of my concerns when we looked at outside the central business district is we've got some seniors, we've got some people with some physical limitations. We've got some people that are gone for the wintertime that would have to pay someone to do things. We've got a lot of circumstances here that we deal with that might not be front and center with some other communities. And I know at the Council on Aging, people are able, depending on their financial situation, to get some assistance for housekeeping or lawn care and such as that, include snow removal, but the $40 a month that they're allocated for that, they have to pay it and turn a receipt in, would pretty much be exhausted under today's standards for getting things done with one snow removal, and we don't fortunately have that little snow in a given month, so they would be in a position of making a decision as to whether they're going to pay bills and eat or get the snow removed. I think, where practical, people should do it. I certainly have no problem doing mine several times a day if it's necessary, and adjacent neighbors. And I have one that's a seasonal person, so I take care of that. But I think in general it should be enforced. I probably get more concerned about people leaving their refuse bin sitting in the street for several days as a blocking maneuver so they can't plow the snow up in the driveways.
That never happens.
That does,
Ever.
I've ridden with them, Jeff.
It happens all the time.
It happens.
Yeah.
So,
It's kind of a dilemma. I think we should encourage people to comply with it for safety, because I know from my house, when I walk back towards Maple Street, there's rental units in Avonmart, and they seldom remove snow from their sidewalks. And it freezes and thaws, and people end up walking in the street because it's icy, hazardous mess.
I might be not remembering, right, but when we first moved up here, it seemed like those little sidewalk snow blowers, man, my wife was always commenting how nice it was. They cleaned those sidewalks off, and we could walk the dog, or she could walk the dog, not me, and get around, and it was just wonderful. But as time went on, it seemed to be less and less, or not as often. What happened?
I can't speak to what the past was, but I can tell you that what my current priority is, you have to understand that we've got probably about 70, 80 miles of sidewalks in the city. We've got 48 miles of streets that we maintain. We just purchased a second snow blower 3 years ago, so we've got 2 units. One of those units is out almost on a daily basis, and then as we have staff time and have staff available, we'll put the second snow blower out. The focus that I have done is the major streets and US 31, specifically as they surround the schools, because that's where we get the biggest collection of children walking and trying to keep those out of the street. Once we get those areas done, then they start branching out, and we try to hit the major streets, and then we try to hit all the other local streets. But it almost never happens where we can get an entire circuit of the community before it snows again and we have to start over. So we can go do 16 hours of that work in a day. It snows that night, we've got to start over. And a lot of it is because when we're plowing the street, we're packing it in to those sidewalk openings, so we've got to keep those open. So it may seem like we're doing less of it, but we're actually probably prioritizing it in the locations that we do.
Well, I appreciate you doing that, especially around the schools and the people, where people walk the most. I'm sure you're aware of where that is, and I appreciate that. I just think that it's a special little service I hate to see go away, pushed back.
Yeah, and I mean, we're researching with our vendors constantly on, are there new products out there? Are there new pieces of equipment, attachments, ways that we could do it more efficiently? The snow blowers seem to work the best unless you're only talking about, 4 to 8 inches at a time. Banks aren't high along the sides of them. Back when I was a kid, the city had little bombardiers that just had V-plows on them, and those suckers seemed like they were going 30 miles an hour up and down the sidewalks and plowing them back. But when you get enough snow, then those are effective and the snow just rolls back in on them, so.
Okay, I think staff has the direction that we need.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Taylor, you have anything else?
Yes, tomorrow, council was invited to a celebration in Filer Township for the completion of the sewer project. And given the weather forecast, they've changed the location from Red Apple, corner of Red Apple and 31 to the Township Hall. Time remains the same, so anybody that was planning on attending, go to the Township Hall instead.
Get there early because the parking is sparse.
There's not a lot.
What time is it, Thad?
10:15.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
City Clerk?
Nothing.
Public Works, you got anything else?
2 items for you. Just a reminder that next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the Michigan Department of Transportation is going to complete some structural repairs to the Memorial Bridge on US 31. That means that bridge will be closed to all traffic for 3 days straight. They've instituted the detour that was used 2 years ago, same time of year. If you remember back, it's challenging with the traffic, but the detour will basically take southbound traffic, turn them west on Monroe Street, north on Washington Street, across the Maple Street Bridge, up to First Street, and then east on First Street back to US 31. Northbound will turn on First Street, cross the bridge on Washington, but then take Memorial Drive back to US 31 to get back onto US 31. The state has signed a transportation work authorization for the city to pay for and have the detour, all the signs, barricades, and everything installed, and then they're going to reimburse us 100% for that effort. It's just a simpler way for them to go through the process. So we've got that all lined up, but it'll be a challenging 3 days in the community. The second item is we're working with our engineers to complete the preliminary engineering on the reconstruction of 12th Street from Maple Street all the way to US 31. Just a reminder, we've got a $375,000 MDOT grant for that. Part of the strings that are attached to that state money is that we have to go go through the state process, the local agency process, which includes setting up the plan specifications to their standards and then performing all the inspection and design according to their standards. We've scheduled the first meeting with the state on October 23rd, and that's called a grade inspection meeting. But we're also intending that evening to set up a meeting with all the property owners that are adjacent to that corridor so that we can meet with them in a small group and discuss the impacts, what the project is, what the design currently is in its preliminary stages, get any feedback and questions, and then also talk about timeframes. So I'm in the process of setting up the location for that, and then we'll get a letter sent out to all those residents this week. So just wanted to keep you abreast.
Thank you. You want to ask the city engineer?
For an update? I think I'll let Sean pass this time. I'll ask him at the council meeting for an update.
Oh. Did we skip?
Councilmember Hoover, any?
I have a couple things. I had a couple email exchanges with Thad about revenue bleed-through on property taxes, in particular, problems that are faced in Traverse City. They have a lot of Airbnbs up there, which some of them are designated as 100% homestead to the property owner. So since they are rental units, they need to be in a rental program. And it is my understanding that Traverse City is also capturing the revenue because it's operating part of the year as a business in additional property taxes. So I just want to bring this topic up because it's something I think we need to take a look at as we get more homes that are sold throughout the city as single-family homes, and people are going, hey, this is great, I can rent out my property, but I don't know how we loop them in to the rental program and everything else. So that's my concern right now. It's been a big issue, so we need to be on top of it, and I think the county also experiences a lot of that as well, especially on lakes, inland lakes. So.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm done. I'm good.
Jeff, I was down at the recycling center down there on, with the paper and all that stuff, and you had a lot of styrofoam again, you had them, all kinds of plastic, other junk that doesn't fit into the deal. Are we catching anybody down there?
And a water heater.
Yeah, water heater.
Yep. So we went and cleaned that up this afternoon, and tomorrow we're gonna start reviewing videos to see if we can find out who put that there.
Need some help, I'll come down and help you, because
All right.
that's ridiculous.
Yep.
Jeff, I took a picture of that the other day when I dropped some stuff off and put on Facebook, and it just happened to line up the sign on what was appropriate and not appropriate and who can use it, and made the comment that, you know what, this cost the city a lot of money to do this, and they dumped the stuff right in front of the sign that identifies what an appropriate item is, and, you know, it's like, it's sad. I got quite a bit of response on it and comments, but it's good that everybody takes a look at that and brings it to someone's attention, so.
Yeah, we would encourage anybody that sees people delivering non-accepted items or any abuse of that to call the Public Works office so that we can look at the cameras and try to address who's doing that.
Okay. All I have is thank you to all of the DDA board members that came out tonight. A lot of them couldn't make it, thanks to the other guests. With that, meeting adjourned.